All right, welcome back, everybody. So we're just going to start our session on the ROMEX experiment. Our first speaker is Shao. And she's going to introduce what ROMEX is really all about. Thanks, Hui.
Okay, again, my name is Shao. I'm working at the UCAR Joint Center for Satellite Data Simulation. For the past 2 years, some of us have been working very hard to push ROMEX moving forward. This afternoon and Monday, you all hear 2 sessions. The first session this afternoon is more for the data processing, and the Monday is more for the impact studies. And there's also a lot of posters related to ROMEX. So my talk, rather than summarize everything, it's more about the introduction to let you know what we have been doing to bring us to this point. And I would like to acknowledge our ROMEX steering committee. Rick is our father of ROMEX, and Chris Marquardt from UMassat, Ben Ruston from UCAR. And of course, this talk should be really give the respect to our ROMEX team members. So we know that IROG is a scientific work group. We're providing CGMS scientific recommendations. So the government agencies, WMO partners, they can coordinate satellite missions. One of the figures we provided to CGMS from our IROG is this figure. It shows the current status of the RO in operations and also the projection in the next 10 years. This is based on UMassat capabilities provided by Christian. But on the other hand, because the global licensing between NOAA and the UMassat and other communities, so the number is very close for the other side of the world. Again, this figure is dated to the January 2024, and we just heard about the DO4, so the number actually dropped from the peak value at this point. But anyway, so far for the past few years, the maximum number we have achieved in operations is close to 16K profiles per day. And since 2015, IROG recommendation for the number of radio occultation is 20K profiles per day. That was based on the OC studies back to 2015 or something like that. And recently has been confirmed by GMAO OC study as well. But you can see that in the next 10 years, we have a big concern regarding this, radio occultation availability because the government-supported missions is dropping. We expect the Cosmic 2 will be gone at some point. And the purchase of commercial data is uncertain, so we cannot just project those numbers in there. But on the other hand, let me talk a little more about that. So we are not reaching the gap we are having. And again, in the future, we are facing even more challenge in terms of the number of radio occultations. I'm not even talking about the coverage, density, whatever we would like to have. And the CGMS does recognize that every year there's risk assessment, and GNSSRO is the one in the high risk category. Actually, we are the only one facing this risk in next 5 years. There's no planning for low inclination orbit after Cosmic 2. And I think yesterday, the study from the infrastructure by NOAA already indicates the Cosmic 2 cannot be replaced without any appropriate planning. We also heard that there are a lot of commercial companies having GNSSR, GNSSRO, and the PRO coming up. And Chinese commercial companies actually having much more capabilities already in the orbits and in the next couple of years. So for that part, it looks very exciting. And we know the existing US and European commercial companies can generate high enough, the high quality data as well. But I want to say is, one, the number looks so exciting, but the availability to our community researchers and operations is limited because we are not really using, even the data in the market, we are not using them. And also, if we are not using them, I think the window of opportunity will be closed to us. And we are losing backbone missions as well. So yeah, we are at the time that is very sensitive to our community to find out what we can do about this. So what is ROMEX? For people, if you haven't heard about that, ROMEX is a radio occultation modeling experiment. This is a collaborative effort. We are trying to collect as many as possible radio occultations from the market. And we are trying to answer some questions I just asked earlier. It was first introduced by Rick Ansis in May 2022. NOAA was trying to figure out their future RO needs and the plan for the future missions. And in 2022, ROMEX was confirmed and endorsed by IROC-9 workshop. The primary purpose or goal of this ROMEX is to provide scientific evidence that how many would be enough or not enough, right? And also we want to address the risk of inadequate sustained RO missions. And of course, the collection of the data will be there available to community. And we are hoping the continuous working on this database can help us to answer other scientific questions. Since IROC-9, we have been working very hard. This is a timeline we have been going through. And four of us in the ROMEX steering committee worked very hard for the first 1 year. And you can see we spent 6 months to negotiate with each data provider we could find from the world. And the overall reaction or feedback from data providers, government agencies are very positive, but it does take a long time to negotiate with some of the providers. And we actually eventually have to seek some government support with very limited funding to get some of the data available to us. So I would like to express my appreciation for NOAA UMSET, who already work hard to get a global license for some of the data, and NASA paid extra to bring their data available to our study. Another 6 months was spent onto the data collection and processing. And some of us actually look at the data quantity initially, and we had go back to data providers, and UMass reprocessed some of the data. So this process took longer than we expected. But on the other hand, remember, there's no single funding supporting this job. So all of us has other regular jobs, and this is just actual workload. And for us, I'm very proud that all of us were able to do this. So January 31st, we released data to the older ROMEX community who signed the agreement. And in April, 4 months after, we actually starting to see the results from our NWP centers. Amazing that I feel sorry that they had such short time to set up experiments and running experiments. But on the other hand, the response from all NWP centers are amazing. So workshop was hosted by UMassat. They provide everything to us, the utility, the facility, the food. And we have a small group of people come in person, some people online as well. And the meeting was quite interesting. We even have people from, across the continent from China join us. And of course, sometimes we have fun time together as well. I really like this picture with Rick standing, having this idea, standing in the back of the room, and all of us smiling to the camera after some drinking, of course. All right, so every center has some initial assessment. And so I just pick one figure from UCAR. And you can see all the missions we collected has been put into the statistics. We have about 40K profiles per day. Of course, it's varying every day. But generally, we can say all the data sets, at least after reprocessing or processing, all the data sets are having a good enough quantity, sufficient enough for us to do the ROMEX experiments. We do notice there are differences, and we believe they can be handled by quantity control. But there are some differences we need to have further analysis because how we can define what is the major differences or not. To us, it looks very small, but it could generate a big impact. So it leads questions to the NWP centers to tell us about that. We also put all the data together to look at the coverage, and this is one of the convincing scientific evidence we provided to CGMS right after ROMEX workshop, only 1 week after. We found out when we put all the data together, there's significant problem coming from the ROMEX dataset. You can see the local timing coverage is not very good. There's certainly you have holes in the distribution. That's because some of the commercial companies have to rely on the opportunity of launches. They have no choices in the local time distribution. So we are able to convince CGMS to add the requirement not only for the number of occultations, but also for the uniform and spatial and local time coverage into their high-level priority plan. For NWP centers, we originally required 2 experiments. Control is including the baseline missions, including about 6,000 profiles per day profiles. ROMEX is the experimental setup, including all the supplemental missions. So we are able to reach about 30 to 40K profiles per day. And during the discussion, following the workshop and other meetings, we also think we should add at least a middle point, ROMEX 20K. Well, not there yet, but we are thinking we probably want to, if we want to find out the curve, the benefits, and versus the number of radio occultations, maybe we should have a middle point to see whether this curve giving us any indication of saturation, flattering for the cost-benefit effect. So for the past few weeks, I have been trying to having a summary, so you're not seeing the results in this table, but I actually have a much bigger table to put on all the experiments I have been able to collect it since the last ROMEX meeting in July. And I really appreciate some of you already provided your setup, your experiments, your resolutions, and your verification metrics and your results. And eventually I gave up to show the results in this presentation because I thought this following days, I need to update my table. So I only have this table to show the incomplete tables to summarize what our people are doing from NWP centers. You can see all the centers have required experiments, and there are also additional experiments based on their findings so far. Not pointing figures. For example, you can see Met Office on the left showing after 2 experiments, Control and ROMEX, they are trying to look at the different setup related to the data, bias correction, etc. And you will hear more results from Neil Bowler next Monday. And the European Center also having the actual setup to fit their needs. And the results are quite mixing. So I have one slide to summarize what I can say based on what I have heard. The impacts are significant, that's for sure, when you add so many data into your operational systems. And if you look at different metrics, the ensemble spread and FSOI are pretty much consistent. You have very positive, significant reduction of the errors. You can see that. But if you look at verification against ERA5 or in situ observations, some centers are very good, having very positive impacts, mostly on temperature. And some centers like EC, for example, some positive signs showing for moisture as well, which we didn't see in the past. But we do see the diverging results in some of the fields. And there's one common variables we noticed from the workshop, which is geopotential height. And we see some degradations. So that's one thing I would like to hear more from our NWP centers, from their experiments. We are hoping to figure out what's behind that. All right, so I think this is really a great, such a wonderful example I have seen so far as, co-chair of IROG, that we can work together, not trying to show off who is the best in the world, but rather we try to help each other. When we look at data, we talk to data providers and they come back to talk with about how to improve their data processing. And when we go to the NWP centers, they are helping each other about what they are using for QC, what they are trying to do to improve the impacts. I really feel that this showing how we can collaborate together. And also, I want to emphasize, we have the window open. We have commercial companies coming to have capabilities. But on the other hand, this window could be very short because we can have commercial companies for other data if this one doesn't give you benefits. And if we don't have backbone, we will lose a lot of sustained efforts in the long run as well. So I cannot say whether we can answer all the questions through ROMEX. But if we can just answer one question, that how much is enough or not enough, maybe we can help answer some of the questions our partners is looking for. And I'm not going to go through this because I have other slides later for discussion topics. But here are the lessons we summarized also for CGMS. And I hope that I can just leave these slides on to let you know what we are learning from ROMEX. Oh, I have to show this one. Thank you, everyone. This is not easy. Your names are listed here not because, we need to recognize that. I want to list all your names because your hard work and your attitude for collaborating together, and I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wei, and thank you for the perfectly timed presentation. So we have time for a couple of questions. Oh, all right, go for it.
I don't want to load too much, but I want to say, first of all, congratulations. It's been very successful so far, and you're still in the middle of it. But I do want to go back to that thing that Cliff talked about, eventually, not immediately, because it's a lot more work, but think about regional impacts.
So I should say that table is incomplete because we do have limited, not all of them, but we have limited regional studies as well. But we encourage people, because global is more operational setup. But I encourage people to also look at some regional scales, high impact weather scenarios, because maybe that's where we can also find the number of data impacts, having the critical remark on those things.
We have time for another question. Well, if there's silence, I'll ask my own question then. We've been hearing from the review of what to do after, or as Cosmic 2 starts failing, that they're thinking about other satellites. And a key thing is the global refresh rate. Is ROMEX able to look at that, or is the fact that there's such a kind of limited local time coverage make it difficult to do that?
I was thinking about that during this lunch meeting. I was thinking that when we are trying to look at 20K, is that possible? We can also look at that refresh rate when we select the data. I don't know. We need to talk about Christian, about that with Christian and other processing centers to see whether we can somehow set up our experiments, picking the data, and then generate the data set somehow matching some refresh rate criteria we can have. So that's one idea. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Hui. Right, we need to move on to our next speaker. So our next speaker is Christian Marquardt, who, as you will know, is our most hardworking speaker of the week. This is his fourth